Good morning, this is Ms. Richard. She's a bilingual chemistry teacher at Eastside High School. She has been teaching for the last 7 years. Ms. Richard will talk about the benefits of using the SIOP method in the classroom.
All right. So yes, as Ms. Luna said, I've been working with the SIOP method and working with bilingual students for the past 7 years, and I have seen so many benefits and so much remarkable progress with my students throughout the years. So some things that I've used in my classroom, the SIOP method features or has 8 components, and the first one talks a lot about lesson prep and making sure that I use content and language objectives. And so in the classroom, I always have the content and the language objectives posted, and I give the students graphic organizers that they use in taking notes so that they know not only the content, which is the what, but also how we're going to be using that content for the day. And so are we going to be focused on reading? Is there going to be a lot of writing? Do they have to focus on descriptive words and observations? But I try to incorporate that in every lesson. But I think the big thing that my students really enjoy in the classroom from SIOP is really making sure that we have a lot of hands-on activities and manipulatives, and making sure that the students can do lab experiments where they have to identify equipment based off of the pictures that I've shown them and using that English vocabulary for the different lab equipment. And even in the classroom, there's all these posters of different pieces of equipment, the eyedropper or the balance, and they learn what those are from the visuals that I showed them, and then they actually drew the pictures themselves. I use a lot of graphic organizers where it has key vocabulary. So one assignment the students are working on this week actually is reading an article that is called The Science of Candy Making. And the students read through this article and they learn about the elements that are in sugar. And the first thing we did with the article, they had to identify new words, new vocabulary words. And then we had a chart, a graphic organizer where they had to write the word in the middle, and then they had to write the definition of the word in English and in Spanish if they needed that help. They had to draw a picture of the word, and they had to use an example, or use the word, put an example of the word. And this was really great for the students because they really started to understand a lot of the new vocabulary in the article, and then we were able to read the article and learn a lot of that, connect the chemistry concepts of the elements in sugar to something that's actually real life. They all like candy, and so making those connections. And I think SIOP is really great because it really emphasizes making input comprehensible, making English and this, or the new language that the students are acquiring, understandable. And it involves making sure not only I'm using the graphic organizers and building background with the key vocabulary, but also making sure my lesson delivery, the pacing, the speech, everything that I use in the classroom helps them in acquiring their second language. So yeah, the last thing I wanted to leave you with, one part of SIOP that is one of the components is interaction, and this being a chemistry classroom, just so many opportunities to do that. The most recent one we did a lab where they had to measure each other's height, or they also had to measure the mass of their cell phone. And all of this instruction was done really mostly in English. They had some Spanish support, but using the strategies of SIOP, they're really able to know for the lab what they have to do, because we again introduce key vocabulary, use the graphic organizers, and demonstrate up front how they're going to do the experiment. And then them working together, they help each other, and I've really seen a lot of growth from my students. And so I would encourage anyone to look at a lot of the strategies of SIOP and utilize them in the bilingual classrooms. They really encourage ELL students to work on their English, progress in English, and also feel confident in the language that they're acquiring.